And now, our feature presentation.
The best in the world is right here, right now.
Whether you like it or don't like it, pal, learn to love it.
Ladies and gentlemen,
welcome.
All right, listen up.
Now it's our time to step forward. It's time to bring the NWA back into the spotlight.
I was thinking that it might be a good idea if you and I formed an alliance.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Attention, everyone. Welcome to the greatest wrestling program in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? Stop what you're doing and listen.
It's the Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts Kevin Frazier, DKM, and J Cal.
Are we going? What up?
Greetings and salutations.
Good. Time out. I'm afraid in the chat they're saying they can't hear you, Jay. I hear you.
They can't hear anyone.
Can't hear anyone? Can't hear me? I mean, as long as y'all can hear me, the show will be okay.
No, you guys should be fine. My mic was not working. Okay.
Well, they just said can't hear anyone, not just Jay.
Okay. So let's... All right.
It's not Jay.
No, everyone's up now. You guys are up too.
Oh, yeah. See, now Woodland says he can hear me, so the show can go on.
All right. So let me...
Carry on. Restart, please, because you were saying something I think that's very relevant to this show.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jay Cal. This is the Alliance Blog Podcast. This is the Alliance Guys Podcast, excuse me. With me, of course, are DKM and Jaden. DKM and Kevin. You know what? Jaden used to be on the show with us. So sorry, Kevin, I did not mean to exclude you.
I'm okay.
But this podcast has been around for many years. In fact, I've been doing this podcast with DKM, and like I said, with Jaden before, with Kevin now. We've been doing this podcast for 13 years. Let that sink in for a minute, for 13 years. And in 13 years, not once did I ever try to bully somebody to see my opinion. Not ever did I tell somebody, this is the way it is, and you better agree. I've always been about sharing opinions, different opinions, and if you like something, that's 100% awesome. And if you don't like something, again, that's also awesome. The whole point of a community is to be able to have Discord and to chat about the show. Like I said, I never bullied anyone into liking it, and I never bullied anyone into not liking it. This podcast has always been about expressing our opinions. When Devin Mercer speaks, you are hearing the opinions of DKM. When the former World Junior Heavyweight Champion speaks, you are hearing the opinions of Kevin Frazier. When you hear J. Cal speak, you're hearing the opinions of Jason Kamille. Not once did I ever... Well, sometimes my wife. But to be perfectly honest, this show might not be for you if you're only looking to hear positive things. This show might not be for you if you only want to hear that everything is sunshine and rainbows. Because what you're going to hear on the Alliance Guys podcast is a true opinion of what we think about the show. What you're going to hear is the gospel according to us. We're not going to sugarcoat it. If we like something, we're going to tell you we like it. If we don't like something, guess what? You're going to hear our truth. And I'm not talking about Ron Killings. I'm talking about what we believe. So with that being said, welcome to the podcast. DKM, Kevin Frazier. What's up, boys? How you doing?
What's up, Jay? If you don't mind me speaking to your point, because I was actually going to talk about something kind of on this topic that was not relevant at all. Just that, you know, the NWA is not in a bubble. It is not in, like, we're not in an era where you can't see any other wrestling but this show. And I think maybe if this was the only wrestling we could see or had ever seen, I mean, it would be the best thing we'd ever seen. But in reality that's not the reality. In fact, wrestling is probably more saturated now than it's ever been in the history of wrestling. And I always compare this show to other shows to say, okay, well, where does it stand? And I would say my biggest thing that I would say critically or that I would say that I don't understand is how they have some of the top talented wrestlers in the world. Many wrestlers that have been on this program have gone on and, you know, moved on to companies making more money and having you know, marquee spots in that. And so there's no lack of talent. It's just, and I know DK is going to say something about this. It is a wrestling show. It's not. And what I think we all liked about the pay-per-view was that we got a lot of wrestling. And I think the issue that we had on this particular episode of Power was that the wrestling just wasn't there. And when we did get wrestling, it really wasn't like wrestling where we got to actually see some matches. And like I said, I watched the opening of another show this week that almost took 25 minutes of unbelievably good wrestling just to start the show. That wasn't even the whole show, just to start the show. And again, NWA is not in a bubble. And there are other options for people to watch, and they need to be aware of that. They don't need to just be fans of themselves and not be open to to improvement. DK?
I don't want to dwell too long on this. We say what we think. And I'm not trying to say that anybody was trying to bully us into their opinions, but it's just one of those people go, well, you're negative, nothing makes you happy or whatever. It's like, have you watched the shows? Have you actually read what we said? Because, yeah, there are times we've slammed them, there are times we've praised them. I thought the pay-per-view was really, really solid. I mean, and first of all, for somebody like me, I'm a person who believes words have meaning. So I try not to throw around a lot of hyperbole except for when I'm cracking jokes or trying to be humorous or whatever. But it's hard for me to say, oh, well, not every show can be a great show. If every show is a great show, then every show is mediocre. You know? I think I stole that from Stuart Smiley. But anyway, so I thought the pay-per-view was very solid. It kept me entertained the entire time. I loved how they just went from match to match to match. There are only 2 talking segments, which in a pay-per-view is the way it should be. You've already sold me the pay-per-view. So you sold me to watch wrestling, so now, now let me watch it. And only one match on the pay-per-view that I don't think I particularly cared for at all. But most of them I thought were really good, and I was really happy with some of the results, and I assume we're going to be going through those. So, Jay, why don't you take us through the pay-per-view?
Well, hey, I wasn't expecting to talk about the pay-per-view, but we can do that. First, if you guys didn't check out the pre-show, make sure you go to YouTube, the youtube.com/NWA. That was the best free program that the NWA's put out in a long time. And that episode, that free pre-show, was actually better than most episodes of NWA Power has been. And it didn't have a ton of star power. It just had quality matches and short little brief segments of talk. Then back to wrestling, then talk. It was brilliant how well it worked. And if NWA Power would actually follow that same recipe, I think everyone would have been very excited about this most recent episode of NWA. But, so let's talk about the pay-per-view. Do you guys want to talk about the pre-show or just the actual pay-per-view itself?
If I didn't see the pre-show yet, neither about me.
Yeah.
Let's just start with the pay-per-view.
Okay, well, let's get to it then. The first match kicked off with the 4-way tag match. A lot of bodies were in here. Big Clumsy in his house. What's up, Big Clumsy? The 4-way tag team match starts off with La Rebellion, which is Bestia 666 and Mecha Wolf defeating Marche, Rocket, and Slice Boogie. Rudo and Sal Renaro with Danny Deals, that was all kinds of weird. And then the end with Odinson and Paro. This was kind of one of we talked about this beforehand. This was one of those matches let's throw it on the wall. Let's see if it sticks. And there was some good elements to it. Obviously, the crutch of this match was to set up it looks like a feud between the End and La Rebellion. What did you guys think about this match? We'll start off with you, DK. What did you think of the match? What did you think of La Rebellion? It's a new tag team we haven't seen before, or Rudo.
I had not seen any of those 3 before, so it was at least interesting to me to get to see them. I could have done without being a 4-way. I'm not the biggest fan of multi-man, multi-team matches. And the action was all that it could be under the circumstance. Obviously, the parts that you wanted to see were, the revolution,
Revolution,
and the End, face off. And so I was happy with how it ended. A tag team, an actual tag team won. They beat a non-tag team, so that was good. And they set up some story to go with the End and the revolution. And so, seriously, I mean, this is almost like a reverse case for me. In this particular case, I like the booking of the End far better than I probably liked the match. I thought it was solid. Kevin?
What's funny is when, as we're going through the pay-per-view, I'm thinking about the impressions that were made on me throughout it. And sometimes when you watch and your first impression may be one thing, and then as you kind of go back through it in your head, you kind of have a different perspective. The more I think about this match, the more I liked it. It's a lot. when I talk about wrestling today, it was very much not tone deaf to what's going on in the wrestling world today, in the way the match went, the style of the match, the pace of the match. You know, I just felt like I was watching like a match, like a big time wrestling match, and you could tell that the wrestlers were extremely into it, and there was a lot of passion out there. I'm going to be partial to La Rebellion because Bestia and I have, you know, became friends back in the day and are still, I guess you say, buddies or whatnot. So again, I thought they were the best tag team in the match. I thought there was a lot of star power in this match, and you know, there's a lot of talent in that ring for this match. And I don't remember even Larudo, like I hardly ever remember anything he did, but I do remember the impact at the end, and La Rebellion made on me in that, and it really did make me want to see more. But I also liked that we had a clean finish. We just kind of had a bang bang match, and it was well done. And I might have to say it might be my favorite match of the pay-per-view.
Wow. Okay.
After the fact. At first I didn't think so, but after the fact, after I've let it all sink in, I really liked it. I
mean, that's saying something. I was good with it. I mean, I thought it was a fine match, but it wasn't my favorite. But let's get to the next match. And the next match is the grudge match with Tyrus, who brought his working boots, I'm going to say. Tyrus, for all the criticism I've given him over the last 12 weeks, that guy came to work. And I know he's still out of shape. I know he is not everyone's favorite wrestler, but I'm going to tip my hat to that guy and give him a bit of credit. He brought his working boots, and I thought he looked damn good in this match. He gets the victory over the Pope. There was some scrupulous things going on, like a foreign object, but you know what? I'm okay with that, and I'll tell you why. Because I don't feel it took the heat off of Pope. It made give Tyrus a much-needed victory, and hopefully the new direction of the Pope and Tyrus can go opposite directions. Kev, what did you think of this match? Give me your take.
I thought so. This would be, I would categorize this kind of as a story match.
Right.
Not really like a work rate type match where you're coming in like the last match we talked about, expecting to see some just outstanding, moves, so to speak, in a match. This match with less selling. This match they had selling. They had a little slower of a pace. They told a really, really good story. I really enjoyed the match. I know we've harped on Tyrus, but maybe he did something between the last tapings and this match, which I'll give him credit for. Because guys, listen, I've told you this before. Just because a guy doesn't have a six-pack, don't mean that that they can't go. And I'm not trying to say that Tyrus can go, but I'm saying he looked in a lot better shape. Like he had put some effort into being in shape for this match. But I think the big part was that the selling was paced right, the match was paced right, the story was there. I don't think they took anything too much away from Pope with the loss because it was kind of a screw job thing. So I agree on all fronts. I liked the match. It wasn't the greatest match ever, no, but it was a good match.
DK.
And I agree with Dave Scooby that Tyrus does need to kind of stay away from that baby blue. Save it for those baseball caps.
Well, I'm not going to argue with staying away from the big blue. I am going to disagree with you guys in that this match didn't really do anything for me. And while Tyrus looked better, it's kind of like saying, 2 pennies is more than 1 penny. Sure. It's more, but it's even double. Like you still wouldn't pick it up off the ground, would you? Again, Kevin nailed it. It's a storyline thing. And again, I think this is a match that was, the booking was probably better than the actual match. I like the story that went with it. I even liked the heart punch. I liked that there was a foreign object used. And I liked the way they did it, because it was hidden, and you didn't, not just blatant right there in front of the referee smashing with a chair type thing. So yeah, the elements of the match were good. Booking was good. And I'm going to sneeze at some point here, so just everybody beware.
Well, let's not belabor this match any further. There's more to talk about, and we don't want to keep the good folks here till midnight tonight. So let's keep moving along. Next up, we had
I will say I think there's going to be a third one at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I think that unfortunately, I think you're right. But we can hope that that's a long time before we have to get to it. Next up, we have the women's tag team match featuring the debuting Kylie Rae, Smiling Kylie as they were calling her, and Taryn Terrell as they defeated Melina and Thunder Rosa. This match was kind of peculiar because, I know it was a good way to introduce Kylie Rae to the roster. There's been heat between Melina and Taryn Terrell as they've been the advocates for both Kamille and Thunder Rosa. But the match kind of went screwy when Thunder Rosa takes Taryn Terrell exit stage left. So it just kind of seemed a little off. I mean, I like Taryn Terrell. She's entertaining to me. But this match was just kind of whatever. I did like the work that Kylie Rae put in. But DK, what were your thoughts on this match?
Well, Kylie Rae impressed me. And I'll admit, I'd not seen her before. I mean, I've heard of her, and I know she's been out there, but I've never really seen a Kylie Rae match. So she impressed me. I thought she's real good. I hope, she sticks around the NWA for a while. I think she's somebody who can be built up in a good way. I love Taryn Terrell's character, even though it's kind of like everything I despise in the world. but something about the way she portrays it is so perfect. And I just love the character. We had a conversation offline one time. I still enjoy Thunder Rosa, and I realized that one of the things I really enjoy about her is that she's one of those people that, whether she's a face or a heel, she works basically the same way. And she works much more heelish than she does, baby face. And, Steve Austin obviously was the person that perfected that. And it's just, I enjoy watching her in this match. I thought she did a good job. She entertained me a lot. Melina, I love you, baby. I don't know that maybe you should be in the ring anymore.
She did look like she was struggling a bit in the ring.
And, and what I liked was that Kylie Rae, the just little goody two-shoes, happy baby face, pulled the trunks to get the win. I just kind of thought that was perfect. And so, this is one of those matches, like Kevin was saying. I think when I watched it the first time, I was kind of like, oh yeah, that's good or whatever. But coming back and thinking about it, and I watched the pay-per-view twice. And so, I won't say it's my favorite match, but I just thought everything came together really well. It entertained me.
Big Kev, what were your thoughts?
I'm probably gonna come down in the same range. I thought it was certainly better than average match, so it wasn't bad. It wasn't great. I don't know about good. It's close to good, kind of good, but there were some highlights. I really liked Kylie Rae and Thunder Rosa's work in the match. I really enjoyed watching them go back and forth. Melina, I can kind of agree that the in-ring, you know, she could have just done less, I think. Just from personal experience, as you get older as a wrestler, getting on the ground and getting back up becomes a lot harder than it used to. So maybe that's something that you eliminate as much as possible in what you do, and then it helps. But who cares? Who's listening to me on that? I would say the highlight of the match was Taryn Terrell. Her entrance gear was the best of the night, hands down. Her gear was some of the best gear of the night, hands down. She looked like she dieted for the show because she was in phenomenal shape. I mean, you know, just, I'm sorry, but look isn't everything, but it takes a lot of effort and dedication to look good like that. And I know that she's not going to go out there in her character and tell you how hard she worked, but it showed in her presentation. Her commitment to her character is probably the best on the show, because her character is very consistent with what she does in the ring and what she says and how she acts and how she portrays herself. So again, I think it's a high level of professionalism with her.
Can I just add something on top of that?
Mm-hmm.
The what I'm getting out of Taryn Terrell is the same feeling I got out of Aaron Stevens in the first couple of seasons. That commitment to the character, the over the top, the silly, the funny. It makes wrestling fun. And that's what,
right.
You know, I sorely miss Aaron Stevens' karate character, you know, flesh-colored suit character, because it was a fun character. Yeah,
I'm gonna make a bold prediction too. I could definitely see Taryn Terrell taking that title, the world title. She's definitely material. So I know that Kamille's got the title and probably has a stranglehold on it, but if anybody can weasel it away from her, I think she could, and probably lose it right back. But that's not the point. I think she's championship material right off the bat.
Oh yeah, and I think to make another comparison.
Sorry, PK, especially on this roster.
To make another comparison between her and Stevens was, you know, Stevens, even in his pre-karate gimmick where he wore those horrible tights, I still have nightmares about.
His pre-karate gimmick.
And, but, you know, when he started out, he didn't start out with the karate.
Right.
You go back to a lot, but he was the same character, just not in a gi. When he had to get in the ring and fight, he was a big man, he was rough, and he was tough and everything. And I kind of sense a little bit of that in Taryn Terrell. It's like, you know, in some ways her character is like, oh, you know, I kind of know that I want to wrestle, I don't want it. But when push comes to shove, she can work in there.
Agreed. All right, so let's go to the next match then, and that would be this was my match of the night. I really thought JTG showed up looking good, in shape, ready to wrestle. Fred Rosser's the most underutilized guy on the roster, or maybe he is the most utilized guy on the roster, because you plug him in anywhere and he can have a good match. He had a good match with the Pope. He was in a good match when teaming with Marche Rocket against Stevens and Kratos. I really feel like Fred Rosser might be the MVP of the show that nobody's talking about. But this match with JTG, I felt like it was high impact. It was fast paced. It had me sitting there watching, waiting for what was going to happen next. It was a wrestling match. And lo and behold, a wrestling match. And the one thing that I kept thinking is, I wonder which one of these dudes ends up with a title first. JTG or Fred Rosser. DK, what did you think?
Oh, I love this match. Probably like you, it was probably my favorite. As far as just professional wrestling, in that isolated thing, it was certainly the best match on the show. So, and, you know, both men are in shape, both men look good, both men work. So, no complaints for me. Kevin?
Yeah, I thought it was a good match. Again, good is probably the word I'm going to use over and over tonight. It was a good match. It wasn't a great match. Again, I don't just throw that out there because, but it was a good match. They both looked good. You could tell there was a lot of, again, kind of like what I said about Terrence Terrell. There's a lot of preparation that went into that. I have a question. Was Rosser wearing his old WWE trunks? Because didn't it say, like, wasn't his name Darren Young?
Well, yeah, his name was Darren Young.
Right, so he had on trunks that said Darren on the front.
You know,
so he lost points.
I didn't notice that, so that's a good call.
Lost points with me big time. Get some new gear, brother. Get some new gear.
Yeah, I don't pay close enough attention to the front part of trunk, so. But I'm willing to take your word on it.
If we're gonna start taking stuff like that, I'm gonna. Anyways, so you got some markdown points for me on that, just because wearing your old WWE trunks with your old name on them. Come on. Maybe somebody pooped in his bag. Who knows? If you guys don't know, that's what people do when they don't like you in the locker room. They poop in your bag.
Well, didn't that was the old Sonny and Sean Waltman thing, wasn't it? Or Sable.
No, that's just the most funniest one. That's the most famous one. But I mean, it happened many a times in the Indies, especially in the South, in Louisiana and some of the more country Arkansas places. Things are just a little more Wild West in those territories.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Anyways, no, I was really impressed with JTG.
Yeah.
He's championship material. And there were some creative moves in the match, which I was glad that there wasn't a bunch of vanilla. And I like Fred Rosser, but I just think the charisma, it's hard for me to get past his lack of charisma. He just kind of blah to me.
Wow.
Great athlete, tough wrestler, but he just doesn't have charisma. Now JTG, on the other hand, he's got swag. He has this something. So again, these are opinions. Doesn't make me the end all be all. Nor do I think that means that Darren. Sorry, I got confused because I saw his old name. That Fred Rosser should be like demoted or anything, but maybe get some microphone work and really work on that part of your game. And I think it will help him tremendously.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that, because if you go back to what we used to see when he was wrestling in Primetime Live, they focused a little bit more on letting him have a microphone. I always thought he was pretty charismatic. You know, I thought he was pretty good. But again, that's the thing about wrestling. It's very subjective. And that's kind of what I was talking about early on in this podcast is, look, man, these are our opinions. We're not right. We're not wrong. These are our opinions, just like you're all entitled to your opinions. This was our match for DK and I. Kev thought it was pretty good, but didn't think it was great. So, I mean, that's kind of the beauty of this podcast is you're just getting real opinions. Sorry, I just wanted to read.
I didn't think it was great either, because again, like at the beginning, I try not to throw words like that.
Sure.
Around they have meaning. But yeah, I mean, it was really good. And when it comes to Fred Rosser, I understand everything Kevin was saying. I would even agree with him on the trunks, but I noticed that you do need to, come on, let's be who you are now. And people fit in different places, and I've made this comment before. Boy, I would love Fred Rosser as the United Wrestling Network World Champion. I don't necessarily want to see him as the NWA champion. But those are different titles and different promotions that have different, styles in them.
Yeah, different personalities.
The United Wrestling Network features a lot of smaller guys and stuff like that. Rosser, who's not that small, but he fit in better there. and it doesn't fit in as well in the later times. And I think that's the type of place where his charisma will come out more naturally also. So it's, even saying people aren't necessarily my cup of tea, or saying sometimes it's where they are and what they're doing. I still, Dave Marquez, watch this. I don't know what happened to your World Championship match, but somehow get Fred Rosser involved.
Well, and I want to also be kind of clear too that what I'm saying is what I think the parts of their game that could be improved that would take them to that he should have the 10 pounds of gold conversation. And that's my opinion. I just think if you're a wrestler, you have to have a look, you have to have work rate, and you have to be able to get on the microphone. I think you have to do all those things, and when you do all those things, you should tell a story throughout. And if you have, those are all the things that I measure. And when I move the dials, I'm looking at Rosser and going, hey, he's got high work rate. I had to knock him down on his look because he had his old WWE champ sign. But he's got a good look, he's got good gear. He does tell a story. He has a character. He's got a message he's trying to give. But I think that microphone skills thing is just a little low. And if he could start moving that up, he could really move up.
And that
move up.
And moving up means that we move to the next match, which is our first title match of the night. We get Aaron Stevens teaming with J.R. Kratos to defeat Strictly Business, Chris Adonis, Tom Latimer, and the War Kings, Crimson and Jack Stane. Now, this is another opportunity that we could have moved the belts off of Stevens and Kratos. We could have went forward with the tag team titles, and they just didn't do it. They decided to keep the belts on Stevens and Kratos. They actually showed a little bit more tag team continuity. They showed a little bit more compassion for one another. Even in the promo earlier on, you could see that there was less tension between them. And of course, I think there's the old adage that winning cures everything. And so maybe the more that they win, the stronger a tag team they become. But they best Adonis and Latimer, which, some people thought that was a foregone conclusion that they were going to walk away with the titles. I'm still disappointed that Crimson and Jack Stane are still just... I don't feel like they've been unleashed yet. I don't feel like their potential's been unleashed. Kev, why don't you tell us about the match? What did you think?
This match had the highlight of the night.
Of course it did.
Match, but it had the highlight of the night. When you got Tom Latimer and Jack Stane slapping the spit out of each other's mouths. You see sweat flying. You hear the smack, man. Come on. For me, that bought my ticket right there. Because that was great. Those are the kind of moments that the everyday fan looks in on and goes, I ain't doing that.
By the way,
I'm not getting in there with those guys and doing that.
In my notes, I have Haas fight over and over and over again. That you're right. That was a lot of fun. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's fine. But I also want to address something that I was pleasantly surprised with how well Stevens and Kratos' story came across. This was the best time that when I've watched them trying to tell this story, this was by far the best time that they've actually told that story. And I think a little bit of it was because they actually got somewhere. For so long it was just like inching the story along and give us some content. Give us something to chew on instead of just barely enough and then making us wonder what the heck's going on. This time we got to see a story get told. And you know what's funny is that if they do it right, Kratos and Aaron Stevens becoming best friends could be the best story NWA has ever told. So it could be. do we trust them to execute something like that? I don't know. You got to give these guys some time in the ring, first of all, to tell a story, but also you got to be committed to actually going somewhere with the stories that you're telling, too.
TK, your thoughts?
Three-ways again. Don't like three-ways with
I'm here. You keep going.
I'm listening. I just said you would agree with me, because I'm always right.
I would never agree with you. No, honestly, I don't care for three-way title matches, especially if they're not elimination. And in fact, I think elimination would have made this one a little bit better. The good, got some good hoss fights in there. That's always positive. I really want to see Latimer Dane now as a singles match.
Yeah.
I really want to see it.
That.
Really want to see it. And so, when looking at that, it's just, it's the first time I had any type of caring when it came to Stevens and Kratos and their story. And I think for what it was as good as it was going to be. It was a solid match. Kevin's word is good. My word for tonight is solid. Everything was pretty solid. Have 2 complaints. So, constructive criticism here, people. Nobody go crazy. Some constructive criticism. I thought the beating up of Stevens went a little bit too long and too well between the teams. And then they sold, Kratos' leg had been destroyed, and, he may never walk again. And, even if Stevens could tag him in, would it matter? Because Kratos is in such bad shape. And by the end of the match, he's walking around fine, carrying a belt, kicking somebody in the balls. I want to work on a little bit of balance. I'll have a similar issue in the women's world title match. But, I just felt that could have been done a little bit better. But, solid work in the ring. And again, pretty good booking for what the match was. And so, I think tonight, I'll sum up a little bit early on stuff. I think what tonight can be talked about is solid in-ring work, logical booking. And it made a good show.
One detraction from the entire pay-per-view, and we'll also feel it in the TV show as well, is that they weren't in the main studio that they were initially for the first, 29 episodes of Power and like 3 pay-per-views. They were in a sub-studio because it looks like the divorce court is filming in that other studio while this show is happening. So it was a much smaller venue, which meant the cameras were much closer to the ring. I don't know if you guys noticed it, but especially during the 4-man tag earlier, and of course this tag team match, when those boys were falling out of the ring, they damn near hit the camera every time, and I kind of flinched each time, thinking those cameras are like $20,000 cameras. If they hit them, someone's gonna lose their job. But I going back to the match, I did like the Haas fight. I still wish that somebody else would have walked away with those titles, but like Kevin said, I mean, this could build to one of the greatest storylines ever if they do it appropriately. Just, do we trust that? I don't know. Dave Scooby brings up a good point, and he says, I hope they don't hold the belts until NWA 73, or it could work out. Who knows what the NWA is up to? And I think that's kind of more what we were talking about last week. Let's throw stuff up on the wall. Let's see if it sticks, and if it does, great. If not,
I'll tell you something that always sticks to the wall, Jay, every time you throw it.
Good wrestling?
Good wrestling in the ring with good storytelling.
I mean, can't argue that.
Amen, brother.
All
right.
So that brings us to the next match, which would be the women's championship match, I kind of like the fact that they did all the 3 title matches, one right after the other, because it kind of made it feel important. You know, if they would have done the one of those matches in a preliminary match, it might have felt less important. So, so then we get Kamille and Serena Deeb. Now, I'll go as far as to say that I think the best women's match I've seen all year was Kamille and Thunder Rosa from a few months back, or a few weeks back, where it went to a 20-minute draw. I think the second best women's match I've seen all year was Serena Deeb and Rio from the buy-in for AEW's Double or Nothing. A really solid match. I felt like this was a really good match, really solid. But I don't think it's the best match that I've seen Serena Deeb have, or the best match that I've seen Kamille have. I liked that it showed a lot of continuity. It was like strength versus technique. Normally, in most wrestling I've ever watched, technique always beats strength, but that wasn't the case here. DK, let me know your thoughts on this match.
It was a solid match, like most of the card, which unfortunately was a little bit disappointing for me because I was really expecting like a really good match with the better technician versus the young powerhouse. I kind of felt they spent a little bit too much time with Kamille beating up Deeb, and Deeb not getting to be the technician and the overall wrestler. It wasn't balanced enough for me, so to speak. That being said, again, it was solid. I was happy for Kamille's win. And, you know, good booking, solid match. More, please. Kevin?
I kind of second that. I think Kamille is coming around in her selling. One of the things that a character like that, a large type character, has to be careful of is too much selling. Case in point, an example where this was like obvious was Pope knocking down Tyrus like within 2 seconds of the match opening. That's not good. But I think she's still got to kind of find her way, because if she does too much of it, it's corny and it takes away from her size. I think here she kind of we call it dead selling. You know, she had a little bit of too much of that, where she's trying not to oversell, but she's kind of dead selling. But I think, you know, the Undertaker was the king of the dead sell, but he was a dead man, and it worked for him. I mean, I'm just saying, you notice how the Undertaker he didn't do the on my mouth. He get hit and just sit there. He just sit there. Again, I think Kamille's kind of finding that spot. I felt like both girls looked like elite caliber athletes in the way they moved around the ring, in the way they positioned themselves. Again, I was a little disappointed in Serena Deeb, because I feel like we expect more out of someone in that position than we got. And, you know, some little guidance details along the way in a match when you're the veteran. Remember, the match isn't about teaching Kamille a lesson about wrestling. That's what you do in practice if you've got the guts. The matches on TV and on pay-per-view are to entertain the fans.
Yeah.
Period. And to deliver an awesome match. So that's part of your privilege of being a great worker and being a veteran, is knowing how to guide someone that's younger along. And that was my big problem with her in Thunder Rosa's match. And in this match, I didn't see it as the same, because there was a time in the match where Thunder Rosa kind of threw Kamille around. Look, maybe you can do that in a shoot, and maybe you should in a shoot. But in a match, like a work match, you need Kamille to look big, powerful, and strong. And that makes you look awesome as a smaller wrestler when you do certain things a certain way. So anyways, I would say that Serena Deeb kind of underperformed on this one. Kamille, I felt like wasn't her best, but wasn't bad. So it came out to be a pretty decent match. I couldn't go as far as good. I'd say decent. It just was missing a little bit. But again, I will say this. Most women that would have watched that match wouldn't want to have been in there.
No.
Those two girls were getting after it. They were beating on each other, and it was pretty intense. And I always can respect and love that, and always want to make a point to acknowledge it when I see them going out there really giving it their all. And I think they did that, so I don't want to take anything away from their effort.
Well, I'll say this when it comes to the match. There were a couple of botches in there. They did pretty well in covering them, but, there were a couple. And I don't know if this is what you're talking about with the dead selling specifically or not, but there were at least 3 times, maybe 4 or 5, that Serena Deeb worked on Kamille's legs.
Yes.
Like the dragon screw and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Kamille never really did anything.
She kind of limped around a little bit, but that's about it.
It barely limped. She kind of like, stutter stepped or whatever, and everything. She actually limped more after the match than she ever did in the match.
Right, and actually, you're hitting exactly the time. Like, that's exactly what I was talking about. Like, so you picked up on it.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, a little more needs to be done there. And see, what this match reminded me is like back in the old days when the world champion would come in and make the local talent look good, but then still walk away with the championship. And this was one of those cases where it was like the champion came in to make the local challenger look good, and the local challenger won.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I guess let's talk about the main event so we can move to the show.
Well, one more thing I want to add to that, to what we were talking about, the caveat I'd like to add is that I really like Serena Deeb as the NWA World Champion. I thought she did a great job representing the NWA in AEW, even though she was still under contract. I felt like the variety of opponents she faced, the amount of defenses she had, I felt she was right up there with Thunder Rosa when it comes to being NWA Women's World Champion. I think the miss on this one is that they probably should have held off on changing this title instead of at the pay-per-view. I wish they would have done it later. I wish they would have done it on a Superpower. And I'm not trying to take away from the fact that Kamille won the championship, because I do believe that was what was always going to happen. I do feel like she is a great champion, or will be a great champion, but I feel like I wish they'd have kept Serena Deeb around a little bit. Maybe we could have had a Serena Deeb title defense against Kylie Ray or Melina or Taryn Terrell or somebody else besides Kamille, because it kind of felt like, well, okay, we know that Serena Deeb is an AEW wrestler, and we know that she's here to drop the title to Kamille, and then the show, and then Serena Deeb will walk away. I wish they would have done something a little bit different, because it became very predictable. It telegraphed it. We know. What a great
swerve that would have been, though, Jay, if Kamille doesn't win the match.
Yeah.
That would have been a nice little swerve. But I would also say, I don't know how they'd have got away without having Kamille lose clean, because of all the screw job finishes in this show, which was my biggest issue with the show.
And that's a good point too. The thing is, Kamille is undefeated in the NWA. She hasn't lost a match yet. She's only had one no contest, no decision. Everything else she's won, and she's won for the most part cleanly. So for her to win this match, as Joe Galli points out later, she did it the right way. I just wish they would have waited to do that switch at another time. But that's neither here nor there. I do know that Serena Deeb will be at the television tapings. We will see more of her down the road, but I just felt like there was an opportunity there to get some mileage out of her, and they could have done it they could have done it during the tapings over the next few days and still had it have a huge impact for not only the NWA, but also for Kamille when she wins a title. It didn't necessarily have to be at the pay-per-view. But let's go to the finals, the main event. Nick Aldis, the dealer, the national treasure, your Real World's Heavyweight Champion. In fact, he's the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, defending against Trevor Murdoch, the man who had been scrutinized and beaten and sent home without pay, and so much adversity, so much struggle to get to this point, to get to this match. And well, if you watched the pay-per-view, you saw what happened. Trevor Murdoch put boots to butt, if you will. He really did take it to Nick Aldis, and it seemingly was on the verge of perhaps winning this match when Aldis found a chair and used it in a way that ended the match. So I'm going to go with you first, Kev, because you're a former World Junior Heavyweight Champion. You know what it's like to have the stakes on the line. First of all, as a champion, what do you feel about what Nick did? And secondly, let's talk about the match.
Well, I'm not gonna. The first thing I want to address is Joe Galley. Bro, pump the brakes just a little bit. It just is a little much. It's wrestling and it's 2021. Don't act like we haven't seen dudes and girls do stuff like this for the last decade. This is not the first time we've ever seen this kind of ending to a match before. So, again, it just was way over the top, his reaction. Opinion. I liked the finish. I liked it. Especially because you're keeping the belt on Aldis, and that's what you want to do. You want him to have that kind of heel finish. You want to leave something left between him and Murdoch. You got some really solid steel chair shots for your money. You got Tom Latimer out in the main event where he belongs. And I didn't mind the finish, but here's my problem with that. Or here's where my problem lies. Is if that's the finish to the main event, then you really don't need a screw job happening earlier at all in the show. Maybe something controversial, but they had way too many screw job finishes. Because having the Tyrus brass nuts in this show, and this as the main event, you had convolution. I think 2 other matches. It just.
Well, they're kicking the ball in the tag match.
Right. I just think it took away from it. But I did like the finish. I did like the match. It was a good match. I didn't have a problem with any of it. I didn't understand if you want to get that big screw job reaction, you already got it like 3 times. And so it just kind of goes back to the booking.
DK?
So
I like that it was a swerve. I do. Here's going to be my only issue at the end of the match. My issue at the end of the match, the world champion took a chair and smashed a referee with it intentionally. Okay. Nick Aldis was just suspended for a week and fined a month's pay or something like that, simply for canceling a world title match.
He should have been stripped.
So, if you're hitting a referee, and let's put this in real world terms. Roy Nelson, Big Country, whatever his name was, in a UFC match against Bigfoot Silva, knocked him silly and was mad at the referee for not stopping the fight earlier. And after the match, he flipped off the referee, went around behind him while he was down on the ground checking on Silva, and did the minorest little push kick to the ref and knocked him over. He was fined $24,000 and suspended for 9 months. Okay?
Yeah, I agree, DK. That's
so now I have to reconcile that canceling the match is a worse violation than smashing a referee with a chair on purpose. Stupid. Idiotic. No excuse. Now, let's talk about the match. The match was a nice match. I liked it. They got in there. They wrestled. They fought. They brawled. It was good old-fashioned wrestling, and I loved every minute of it. My only complaint about it was it was too damn short. They should have cut one of the earlier matches and let this one go longer.
I can agree with that.
And so this was fun. It was enjoyable. If they had done the end slightly different, it was half a dusty finish. If it had been a dusty finish, another referee would have come in and actually awarded Trevor Murdoch the belt, and then the first referee would have turned around and changed the decision. And if it was a true dusty finish, we wouldn't have found that out until Power. So we kind of had half a dusty finish. And, it was a good swerve. If they had just finagled it a little bit differently, I would have been happier with it.
Mm-hmm.
And, they got a rematch. It'll be interesting to see if they talk about the fact that they're going to be wrestling somewhere else, because they never talk about anything that's not related to them. I don't know why they feel no need to promote their world title. But, I know a lot of people complain about the screw job finish. Like Kevin said, probably would have been better if there hadn't been other screwy things on the show. It was good. It wasn't expected. We should be surprised sometimes. So I complained about how you fit that into the kayfabe world, but the overall outcome, that was good. It took me by one, and I like the fact that Aldous was the one that won.
Yeah, that was kind of fun.
Because they disqualified Murdoch.
That's the ultimate screw job.
So I mean, yeah, that was total. It's like, dude, not only are we not qualifying Aldous so that you can get the win and take the winner's share of the purse,
nope.
But you lost because Aldous is knocked out by the chair. So obviously you're the one that knocked me. So yeah, I mean, that was good. So let me wrap up quick, because we do need to talk about the Power quickly, since there's only about 13 minutes of wrestling. It should be too hard.
Nope.
But overall, hey, solid show. More.
I just want to let me throw my 2 cents on the main event. It's refreshing to see Nick Aldis in his element. I don't need 100 promos leading up to a match. I don't need him in the commentator booth. I don't need him up at the podium every week. I need him wrestling. I'm a huge Nick Aldis fan, but I'm not a fan of his promos. I'm not a fan of his commentary. I'm a fan of his wrestling. And I think that's where he excels. That's why he's the world's heavyweight champion. That title is supposed to mean that you're the greatest wrestler on God's green earth. So let's see more of that, please, and less of the yappy, yappy, yappy. I mean, you could yap, but let's see more of the wrestling. And with that, let's go to Power. Seemingly, Joe Galli has a crush on Kamille. That's the only way I could explain it, because he sat there in front of in front of her boyfriend, Tom Latimer, and projected to just keep saying, it's not about you, it's about her. It's about her. She did it the right way. Which I agree with. Sure, she did the right way, but, I mean, and I love Joe Galli. I won't have any of you besmirching Joe Galli's name, but I feel like he might have feelings for Kamille. It felt a little odd. And I jumped over the part where there's a pay-per-view in St. Louis, Missouri. We'll get to that in a minute. Kevin, what did you think about my friend Joe Galli?
Look, this was probably some of the worst booking of a promo I have ever seen. Joe Galli, the way he talked to Tom Latimer and the way he talked to Nick Aldis made them look like absolute, we might have used a derogatory word back in the day.
Yeah.
Or they would in the thing. An announcer should never be able to speak to a wrestler like that without consequences. Because it is a work. That is the thing. In a legitimate situation, Joe Galli would never even think about talking to them like that. So I just think you have to. He either should have gotten his face punched out or he got slapped, or it shouldn't have gone as far and as long as it did. Just my opinion. It made all the wrestlers out there look stupid. He made them look stupid, and frankly, I'm not knocking. I don't know if he was told to do this or what, but it pulled a lot of attention away from. It brought the attention onto him, which is not his job.
Real quick, I want to just say this. Traducus on our Twitch feed right now just said, in the USWA, Randy Hayes got a fireball in the face by talking to Eddie Gilbert and Missy Hyatt like that. So Galli should have gotten knocked out.
Right, and the fact that you could tell that I don't know how else to say this, that the guys that were standing there weren't allowed to do what they really should have done. It just bad booking. That's all I can say. It bothered me a lot. It was very distracting and just wasn't necessary. It sounds like somebody that's never been in a fight or doesn't really know anything about wrestling put that together. Maybe like Billy Corgan. Just saying. I know it got quiet in here real quick, but
look, I don't know who put that together, and I don't care, except on the thing of don't let them put anything else together. I'm going back to this. Nobody cares about Joe Galli versus Strictly Business. Is he going to become a manager? Is he going to go out and find a team? Is he going to take them on in a handicap match? No, probably not. And we don't care. I'm not going to fight. I can see the manager roll out. But you're building to a feud nobody cares about. No one's going to buy a pay-per-view for Joe Galli versus Strictly Business. The pay-per-view gave me so much hope, and this show gave me so much despair. It's incredible. It's who cares? But I will tell you one interesting part. Switching gears here real quickly. I will tell you one interesting part that I've just loved. The fans have Kamille's kind of getting that over heel type thing, where she's kind of going to be switched face by the fans, whether the promotion wants her to switch or not. But it was so fun when they introduced Latimer out, because Latimer comes out and the fans just boo, and Kamille's like looking at him like, what are you going for? Don't move the love of my life. We're getting married. And so I don't know what they'll do there, but it's that one little isolated segment was my absolute favorite part of the show. And everything else, I just wanted to hit my head with a hammer.
We did kind of get a little bit of a hint. It was inadvertent. Tim Storm kind of stepped in, and they started talking about the national title tournament, which I think the three of us were all okay with the title just kind of having some shelf time, But they did mention that there are a couple names already set up for the tournament. and they made it sound like these are three-way matches. I'm not sure because they said there's Latimer, Adonis, and then a third person, which was POWERRR. Again, putting a tag team wrestler who's only got one victory on the show into a national title tournament doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but okay. And then Fred Rosser, JTG, and again Kratos, again a guy who's got the tag team titles. We're gonna put them into the national title. I mean, didn't we just have the whole segment where they pulled the national title off of a guy because he was trying to win another title? It's a little bit confusing. It's a little bit off-putting, but apparently we're gonna have a national title return at some point, probably on this season of Power. What do you guys think? You ready for the national title to come back?
Only if they put it on JTG.
Or if they put it on Tom Latimer.
I knew he was going there. So we get 19 minutes and 33 seconds into this episode of Power before we ever get our first wrestling match. That's almost 20 minutes of just the School of Morton, pay-per-view announcements, celebrating Kamille's title victory. I mean, this was just... I don't know if we said it online or if this was offline, but Kevin was talking about NXT and how he feels that NXT is by far the best produced wrestling on the planet right now. And he's talking about how the show is wrestling. It's just wrestling. And it shouldn't be too hard. It's not like NXT roster is so much more talented than the roster for the NWA. It just feels like... Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No.
What Kevin was saying was that it's just better utilized. The storylines make a little bit more sense. The wrestling's better. Kevin, go ahead. I know you want to say it.
My favorite wrestler on NXT is an ex-NWA guy. LA Knight right now might be the best wrestler on the mic, best body, best storytelling, and I mean all of it. And he was on NWA. So don't tell me that I'm just being a Debbie Downer. LA Knight got to go out there and wrestle for 15 minutes against Jake Atlas guy. And they had a killer match. Would have been the best match in NWA history if they'd have had that match on Power. And don't tell me about the opening match, the three-way match. I mean, I can't imagine ever having a match like that on Power, because it would be more than a 15-minute match. And that was storytelling.
Yeah.
So, okay, this is not a show about NXT, but like I said, I watch those things to get context. And the context is I've seen other guys. I think the NWA has plenty of talent. They just need to let those guys go out there and really get after it.
Do you know who has 20-minute openings of non-wrestling?
Raw.
So, I mean, is that what you want to be compared to?
I don't even watch Raw. That's a good point.
All right. So what do you think of the title match?
Well, before we get to that, can we talk about the mysterious masked man?
Yeah.
Well, I was kind of hoping we wouldn't, but...
Well, first of all, DK, you're old enough to remember. Was that the spoiler mask?
It was at least based on the spoiler mask. So, yes, there's somebody that's out there that's kind of looking like a spoiler, but he's not giving any type of name of who's under the mask or what the mask character is. So I'm assuming they're making it sound like it's somebody and somebody we should know. So, they're going to disappoint a lot of people. The mask comes off and it's Bob.
When it's who?
So, Bob.
Oh.
In other words, nobody,
Right.
So hopefully it is somebody that we will know and appreciate. No, it's not Kurt Angle, people. And no, it's not Buddy Murphy.
It's not Buddy Murphy.
No, it's not 99.9% of the names that were mentioned.
I've seen the name. I'm not going to list it here. If you guys want, I'll share it offline. But it's a credible wrestler, somebody who was trained by some credible people. Never got that big opportunity. but it's not somebody who you're going to be like, oh, I know him. So I don't get your hopes up, but he is a talented dude.
Oh, trust me, then we're not up.
Here's my thoughts on this. So now we're going to rehash the question mark thing?
No, because the question mark was tongue-in-cheek and meant to be funny and silly that got over. This guy's anything but...
This was serious? I thought this... To me, I felt like we were in the Twilight. We're in that NWA Carney Twilight Zone again.
Well, you are, but it...
So let me see if I get this straight. The president of the company, our good buddy Billy, has gone, found a wrestler he knows, give him a handshake agreement, put a mask on, and send him out there to cut one of the most boring, monotone, could care less promos on the planet to get him over. Is he a face? Is he a heel? Is Corgan?
He's Corgan's friend. That's what it is. Corgan's probably friends with this guy, and this is Corgan's way to try to help this guy get his shot that he never got. He's probably buddies with him, and that's what it's all about. That's my guess.
Here's the thing: if the idea was to make us go, "Oh wow, who was that?" It failed.
Yeah, it didn't work.
So, can we talk about wrestling? There's only 13 minutes of it, so come on.
We can get on to the wrestling.
So let's get on to the highlight of the night for me, because the Pope. Good Lord, where's my TV title? The Pope, as television champion, has been refreshing. The Pope carrying that belt has been awesome.
Agreed.
And the Pope, honestly, I think the Pope might be my favorite part of the NWA at this point. DK, you went dark, man. I can't see you anymore.
Yeah, my computer screen's went out. Hold on, I'll be back up in a minute.
Okay. But the Pope, I mean, such a breath of fresh air. Everything he does, he does well. I mean, he has... When Kevin was talking about swagger, I don't think there's anybody more on the roster that has the swagger that the Pope has. I mean, he's dropping his belt off with Velvet Sky, saying, "Hey, I know you're pretty, but this is prettier. Make sure you protect it." I mean, he just everything he does, there's something extra to it. And when he gets in the ring with Luke Hawk, man, the Southern Stomper, the former king of the deathmatch, I mean, Luke Hawk is highly underrated, and he does a great job with his son, and the Hawk Ari is a fun tag team. But you guys, you can't sleep on this guy, Luke Hawk. He's been around. And I mean, his days, he's wrestled in Mexico, he's wrestled in Europe, he's been on television, he's been a contracted TV wrestler. The dude can do pretty much everything. I've seen him have great matches with guys like Chris Bay, or great matches with guys like, oh gosh, now I forgot his name. Kevin Douglas. Well, sure. Sure.
I was there. I saw that one live.
Luke Hawk is great. So this match, this is one of those times where, gosh, I wish we had longer than 6 minutes and 5 seconds, because I could watch these guys wrestle all day. And it was a good match. It's not great. Can't be great at 6 minutes. It just can't. But they told a story. It was a good match. There was a lot of respect, right? A lot of respect for each other. I just felt like it was a very solid match. I had something else written down. It was faster paced than most of the the TV title matches that they've had. And I just really felt like this was a good, solid TV title match. And it just shows you how good the Pope is. I mean, he's wrestling Tyrus. He's wrestling Luke Hawk. He's wrestling Fred Rosser. And all of these matches are either solid, good, very few have been bad. Matt Cross, I mean, the list of people he's beaten since being champion is more compelling than the list of people Nick Aldis has beaten since he's been champion in the last year or two. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go off on that. DK, what were your thoughts on the match?
Oh, it was enjoyable for what it was. Of course, we all know I like Pope. Luke Hawk, somebody who I've seen live. He's got a lot of talent. They said underappreciated. They put on a good match for the TV title. Only complaint, like I said, it was short. It was just over 5 minutes in what would have been a fun 10, 15-minute draw. So, Kevin?
Yet again, Eli Drake wrestles Jake Atlas for 15, 20 minutes. Has a great one-on-one match. Gives you everything you could ask for. You have two wrestlers in the ring that could easily put on a match like that. And you put them out there for 6 minutes. I mean, it's their show, it's their thing. They can make it 10, they can make it 12, they can take the stupid time limit off of it. I just think, you have two really good wrestlers and you hamstring them by putting them out there for 6 minutes. Because anytime you tell me in another, say I'm wrestling Luke Hawks, and you tell us we got 6 minutes, and we're both going to look at each other and be like, what the heck are we going to do in 6 minutes? I mean, our entrances are going to take 2 minutes apiece. So, I love Luke. I love Pope. I liked it. It was good for what it was. It felt like a third of a match. And I think that they owe us better than that.
It also should have been the main event.
Yeah, absolutely should have been the main. And that's something that they, for whatever reason, the TV title match is not the main event. Hasn't been on.
6 minutes. That's a 6 minutes. And you can't have a 6 minute main event.
No, they've done it before.
They've done, hey, don't tempt them. We had Jordan Clearwater sit in the ring for 6 minutes and not have a match, and we had, they just totally took away the main event. So don't tempt them, Kevin. They could do a 6 minute main event if they want to.
Oh, God, they did this time.
Next up, we have a commercial for Kayfabe College. Then we get Taryn Terrell and Lady Frost. I've heard great things about Lady Frost. I've never seen her in the ring before. She certainly has an interesting look. Taryn Terrell is delightful. I will always enjoy her matches. It was weird how the announcers were pegging it as Taryn Terrell was so crafty veteran. It seemed like to me it was a dumb luck victory. What did you guys think about this one?
I thought they overplayed Taryn Terrell's role in the match. I thought they overplayed it. Whoever's idea it was to book it like that, just get out of here with that. You can get exactly the same thing accomplished with actually having wrestling. So you took two really good female wrestlers, and yet again, with stupid booking, they didn't get to go out there and do what they do best. That's all I got.
Was there a wrestling match?
I hated the finish too. I thought it was dumb.
I mean, they rung the bell. Lady Frost got some pretty decent looking offense in. Taryn Terrell ran to the podium. Shh, take a break. Shh, shh, and then got in the ring and then rolled her up for a pin. It just seemed, again, there was bad booking, not really fundamental wrestling. I would definitely like to see more out of both of them.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Sure.
How long was Taryn Terrell out talking on the mic?
Oh, I don't know. Longer than the match it was. Longer than the in-ring action.
All right. How long does it take to count to 10?
Should take 10 seconds.
Why was this not accounted? Why do you bury your reps? And we'll see this again tonight. Why do you have to go out and say, we're the NWA, we wrestle, we're different, come see us. Okay, you don't do the flippy flips. I'll grant you that. But how is this anything different than what I would see on WWE or WWE? They would have got counted out.
It was a bootleg version of that.
Or AEW or, some of the other things. What the heck? Get them in the ring. Well, why couldn't the girls have gone 5 minutes? Why couldn't they have gone 7 or 8? They're good.
Yeah.
Is Terrell still injured?
I mean, let's be honest. That whole fiasco was about 5 minutes. They could have had a match, or they could have done what they did. Somebody chose to go that direction.
Right.
Somebody needs to stop smoking crack. Or somebody needs to start smoking crack. Whichever one they're doing currently, please reverse. That is shit. I want to cry. And for you out there that are listening to us, I did not watch the show because I did not subscribe to it anymore. I had to. It was legal. I watched it in a legal way, but I had to find another way to, irritate a friend to watch it. And that was not either one of these friends, for those who are wondering.
Wasn't me.
He lives
I have a friend here in the town I live in, and he has it.
He lives in Texas.
Yes.
A great nation.
Exactly. And so anyway, what about this would have made me say, hey, I can't wait to plunk down $5. I can get me 2 chocolate shakes for $5. I'll be happier longer.
Hey, NWA, anybody listening? Okay, I pay $5 a month so I can have something to talk wrestling with these two guys about. Not because your product's great. Sorry. So I can hang out with Dave, Scooby, and Terry, and Ron, and James, and WWLTD, and Woodland Goblin, and Kokushi when he shows up.
By the way,
that's what I'm doing.
By the way, WWLTD stands for What Would Luthez Do? And Luthez would have wrestled.
Wow.
So let's get to the next segment. And I actually like this. I watched it a second time because I think we're seeing a shift here, a paradigm shift, if you will. I think maybe Black G's has something in mind for Tyrus, and I kind of like where it might be going. Now, I don't know spoilers. I haven't seen any spoilers. I don't know what's going on. But Tyrus, who's been managed by Austin Idol since he's gotten there, is approached by Black G's for a business proposition. What that means, I don't know. But it got to be better than Austin Idol every week making up words and telling us to Google it. I'm excited about it. I don't know where it's going to go. You guys want to talk about it, or can we get to the next match?
I don't care.
Let's go to the next match. Next match is The End. Odinson and Paro versus La Rebellion. Or is it Rebellion or Revolution? Rebellion. La Rebellion.
I think it's Rebellion.
Rebellion. It's the Rebellion with
the Rebel Alliance. They're part of Star Wars.
Sure. And that's with Mecha Wolf and Bestia 666. Now, these guys had kind of a falling, during the pay-per-view. If you guys go back and watch that match, there's a point in time where it seems like The End and the La Rebellion are kind of in that ring together at the same time, and it seems like they're doing a lot of fighting as a tag team against each other. The thing I want to point out is, as much as I like Paro and as much as I like Odinson, they lost to Adonis and Latimer. They lost to the War Kings. They were a non-factor at the pay-per-view, and then tonight they draw with La Rebellion. Is it time just to let The End go? Is it time to split them up as a tag team? Because they're obviously a bunch of losers the way that they're wrestling. That there's nobody there that's doing anything worthwhile. And then you've got La Rebellion, who Sunday night, I mean, they won that 4-way dance. Brand new tag team representing Lucha Libre, and they win that match. And then tonight, they draw with The End. It was a good match, but I hate these non-finishes. As DK alluded to before, the referees are starting to look just imbecilic. Is that a word? They look like imbeciles. Kevin, tell me what you thought about this match, brother.
I don't know how you can have two good teams like that and bury them the way they buried them.
They hate tag teams.
Why not just have a time limit draw? But you know what you'd have to do to have that? They'd have to go more than like 5 minutes. It'd have to be like a 10, 15-minute match. And then you have then you don't have to have some bull crap finish. I am putting NWA more and more in the Hood Slam category than I am in the WWE NXT category. If you don't know what Hood Slam is, it's an awesome show that they have out in Oakland, and a good friend of mine, Sam, runs it. And, you know, it's comedy wrestling. They go out there, they have fun, they goof off, but everyone knows they're not out there to be serious. It's just a party. I think of NXT as serious wrestling. When I think of even like MLW, or when I think of Ring of Honor, when I think of even AEW, like, I think they're trying to be serious about what they're doing. NWA to me feels like they're almost like they don't take themselves seriously, and almost like they're doing this to make fun of wrestling. In some ways, it's almost an insult to me in ways, because it's like, okay, are you trying to really, are you being serious? And if you are, is this what you think wrestling is? And
the scary thing is, I think so.
Well, and what are you doing with these guys that are all really talented guys? If you're just going to go treat these top-notch wrestlers like jabronis, then why not get some jabronis? And my next question, and this is my challenge to the wrestlers, I mean, are they paying you that well to go out there and look that way? I know many times I had to say no to people. And I walked away from storylines that were dumb, or had to at least have some say in it. Again, a lot of this stuff is compromised. But how are you letting yourself go out there and look like that? You're not going to keep any legitimate wrestling teams or wrestling talent treating them this way. They're going to use you as an interim until they get somewhere that will take them seriously and will make them look good. A little harsh, but
Did you guys see Zicky Dice make his debut on AEW?
No, I did not.
He got murdered by Lance Archer.
Well, I've always liked Lance. Now I like him even more. And let me talk about this tag team match just a little. In that, referee looked stupid. It took him 20 seconds to count 5. They should have been counted out earlier. It was weird in that I felt like it was a pretty good worked match until the end. But it's like they went from stiff to light. Some of the stuff they were throwing there at the end, especially once they got to the floor, just looked terrible. I mean, terrible! So I'm joining Kevin on this, which is, why are you allowing yourself to be booked this? I hope you're making money, because if you're saying, well, it's exposure, why would I want to book you after that?
Well, some guys, it's not going to hurt them. I don't think Odinson's going to be hurt by it.
No,
I don't think Robert Bellion's going to be hurt by it.
Odinson, I think, is a good enough character. I do think they should break up the end, because I really want to see Odinson more as a singles wrestler and see what they do with him. And he's probably impressed me the most. The Rebel Alliance, or whatever, they
we love this team, but we can't get their name right.
I'm not French. So anyway,
it's Spanish and you're Mexican. Come on, what's going on here?
That was Rebellion.
We're on a roll here tonight, guys. We're on a roll. At least we're having fun.
Yeah, well, we had to have some fun with the show because the show wasn't any fun. And, you know, I think they can do something with them, but they won't because they just hate tag teams. And I really am struggling to think of like the best tag team match that they booked that wasn't just, you know, completely ridiculous. Probably the Ed versus War Kings. But I mean, come on.
If you're talking about Power, for sure. I don't know the last time they had like some good finishes on Power. I think the pay-per-view they had plenty. They had a few. I can't say plenty, but they had a few good.
The last 2 episodes of Power I felt were really good. But you had the 2 episodes of Power, then you had Power Surge, and then you had the pay-per-view. So what I'm going to suggest is this. Instead of the NWA hitting that reset button after every pay-per-view, you ramped us up. You got us set up for the pay-per-view. Can we just keep pushing forward with that? Because you guys are only doing like, you know, this is 4 days of television taping. We know it. And I'm not trying to say that to be snarky. I know this is 4 days. So over the course of the 3 or 4 days, can we just keep it ramped up or amped up, I should say, instead of ramping up? Because it feels like, okay, we got our first episode of Power, and I was disappointed. It was a letdown. It was a letdown. Can we go back to like episode 29 of Power and episode 28 of Power, where it was actually fun and I was happy with those shows? I want to go back there, because as much as I liked the Pope and Luke Hawk, that was a good match. As much as the tag team match started off really well, there was a lot of letdown on this show. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry to those of you who care, but I don't need 15 minutes of Kamille in the ring and Nick Aldis jumping around in a tuxedo, handing her flowers. This was stupid. This was trite. This insulted my intelligence. This is trivial.
3 matches. They had 3 matches, and one of them had featured 30 seconds of action. Okay? Don't tell me I'm negative for the sake of being negative. Don't tell me there's nothing they can do to please me. It sucked. And if you don't think it sucked, okay, fine. But it did.
I gotta say
when Kevin and I agree on something, you know it's the gospel truth.
Hey, guys, I gotta say something. Like, listen. This is something again, if we were on air, off air, we'd be talking exactly like this. This is just the way we are, who we are, why we like each other, and why we get along, and why we do this. And you got 3 guys on 2 coasts and 1 in the greatest state in the nation, Texas. But you got guys across the entire country sharing similar views and opinions. It's not like we're sitting in a room all week talking about our ideas. We may text back and forth here and there or chit chat, but in reality, a lot of our ideas that we talk about get exposed right here on the show, because this is just raw, real, and this is how we feel. This is just us talking. This is not us doing a show. And what DK is saying is like what he really feels. And I can't really disagree with him, because it's not that the talent sucked. It's not that some of the production sucked. Some of it could use... The production has gone down. I'm sorry, but I'm a big production fan. It's a big thing to me. I really like production. It's probably why I like watching the bigger wrestling shows. But the production isn't bad. It's just... what are you doing to wrestling? And to wrestlers, what are you doing to this amazing sports entertainment thing that it is? What are you doing to it? You know, are you adding to wrestling right now? Like, aside, I mean, really. And I think it's kind of funny. Sorry, I don't mean to go off here. I think it's funny. James H. Jackson said, "The end of people paying $5." I hope not. Honestly, like I agree with Jay. They need to take whatever ramped upness they have from that pay-per-view. They need to take some of that, and that needs to be in the show. And I think you need less story, more wrestling, This is what it's all about. You just don't have enough TV product out there every week, or give enough content like in the time that you give us to have so little wrestling. If the show was an hour and a half and it had 3 15-minute matches in that hour and a half, something of that nature, you had 45 to an hour's worth of wrestling, or even just 40, 35, 40 minutes of wrestling, we could palette some of this stuff a little bit better.
For sure.
But right now, it just feels like a bunch of guys goofing off.
So, I mean, look, I said it at the beginning of this podcast. You're hearing a real opinion, right? You're hearing my real opinion. You're hearing Kevin's real opinion. You're hearing DKM's real opinion. None of this is, obviously, we're not sponsored by the NWA. Obviously, they're not asking us to be on their YouTube channel. We're being direct. And you could sugarcoat the show and highlight only the positives, but even on this show, that's only 2 segments. I mean, just be real. That's 2 segments. And I'm not telling you guys to stop watching the NWA. I'm not telling you not to support it, but I'm saying that maybe we should ask for more. Maybe we should demand more. Maybe there should be more.
I want to put on this, Jay. What was our tone with the pay-per-view?
Completely different.
We had a show here on this show alone where we had something that we all agreed that we liked, and then something we all agreed we didn't like. So you don't tell me they were just up here talking negative, because when it's good, we give props. And I can list off at least 5 wrestlers on this, maybe more, that are all top-notch big league talent that deserve better than what they do with them on this power. And they need to put more of what they do on the pay-per-view, because then they'll get more pay-per-view buy rates. Sorry, DK, I feel like you're ready. It's like our closing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, because there's nothing to talk about at the end. Because do you know who has non-wrestling thing in their main event segments, like was on Power today or Tuesday? WWE Raw. So what we saw today was a 1-hour condensed version of the 3 hours of WWE Raw. That's basically it. We had too much talking at the beginning. We had a non-wrestling main event, which, the least they could have done was have Thunder Rosa or Serena Deeb or someone come out there, take those flowers and kick Aldous in the balls and smack Kamille in the face with the flowers or something. Something was making, oh yeah. But no. We had stupidity. By the way, Mickie James was on the show at the very beginning to, tell the paper.
The opening was the best part of the show.
Well, it was. And, of course, they kept kayfabe there because there was no mention of James and Aldous being a couple, even though everybody knows it, and it's going to obviously have to come out at some point during this whole thing. And I am excited at the idea of the NWA going back to St. Louis and to the Chase and all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, the best part of this show, outside of that one Kamille look when Vladimir came out, was, Billy Corgan and Mickie James there talking.
I would also... Oh, go ahead, Greg. Sorry, DJ.
Well, I was just going to say, otherwise the shows I'd do better.
Yeah, agree. I'm going to say this, too, because... and I'm going to go back to NXT, because it's going to illustrate what I'm talking about. At the NXT show this last week, they had the match at the opening. It was a fantastic match. But then Adam Cole comes out and he lays everybody out. He's drugged to the back. Later on, Adam Cole comes out again and grabs the microphone and cuts what I would say is promo of the year. Top that. And, Karrion Kross comes out. They have a showdown. They do some legit trash talking, like good stuff. And that's my thing, is like, if you're gonna have people go out to the ring and talk and do stuff, like, that's how you do it. You make it mean something. I mean, you make them feel it. And again, I don't think I felt anything with some of the stuff that they've done in terms of their promos. And there's a simple way to do it that it could be a little bit more effective and you got the talent to do it. So I challenge, like DK said, you could do better.
You know, we talk so much about some of the bad stuff. We didn't even talk about the Trevor Murdoch promo. We left it off the show because that's how bad it was. There's so many things on this show that were just not good. And I talked to somebody who was a big NWA fan, and they said they told me, yeah, I really liked this episode. And I said, really? I mean, tell me what you liked about it. And I'm still waiting to hear back from them because I probably won't get an answer. The NWA under Billy Corgan, with Nick Aldis as world champion, with Kamille as world champion, has a ton of potential. I'm not going to go as far as to say it's unlimited, but there's so much potential. This TV show could be so much better. The pay-per-view, they're talking about the 73rd anniversary pay-per-view. I mean, I was at the 70th anniversary. I don't know how they're going to top it. And honestly, with what they have right now, I don't think they can. But I'm welcome to be proven wrong. Like I said, I was proven wrong about When Our Shadows Fall. I was the last person to buy that pay-per-view, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So NWA, if you're out, second to last. Okay, if the NWA is listening to this podcast, hey guys, make us prove us wrong. But right now, I don't think we are. I think it's you. I don't think it's me. I think it's you. So I think we should end it there. I think that's a good place to end the show. I do appreciate you guys checking us out. You know what? You know, Traducus is here. James H. Jackson's here. Woodland Goblin's here. Ron Gibson. Sweet Vanilla's in the house. Jimmy LB is here. I saw Willie Bowen earlier. Woodland Goblin. I already said Woodland Goblin. Terry McDermott's in the house. What would Luthez do? You guys, this is what makes this show fun for me. Because sometimes watching this thing is a friggin' chore. But talking about it with you guys kind of makes me feel like it's worth. This is where I get my $5 worth right here, is venting to you guys and you guys putting your comments in. I do appreciate you guys jumping in. Like Traducus said something funny. I didn't acknowledge it earlier. He said Paro looks like the comedian Bert Kreischer. I can never say the guy's name right. But the guy that's the Machine. And that killed me. If you guys know who that is, look him up, The Machine. Because it looks just like him, just like Paro. But you guys make this a lot of fun. And so we thank you for being here. We're here every Thursday night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. We might be missing here and there every once in a while, but for the most part, you'll see us here. July's going to be bumpy, but we'll try to get something still going on, even if we're not here live. Then Tuesdays, you can check us out for the pre-party to get you set up for what's going on with NWA Power. You guys will be here with me, and we'll be talking NWA, be talking Power. We'll get you all pumped up for that. Kevin, if they want to follow you on socials, how can they get a hold of you?
So you can follow me on Twitter at Kevin Lee Frazier. I actually live tweeted the pay-per-view. I might do that again next time. So that was a lot of fun. Got a lot of feedback on that.
We might do a watch along. If I don't go to St. Louis, we might do a watch along.
I mean, people actually interacted, which was fun, and I actually guess I still have a few followers. And so, yeah, you can catch me on Twitter, Kevin Lee Frazier. Mostly talk about NWA on there and wrestling. Sometimes I talk about Jesus, or working out, or football, or baseball. And then you can find me on Instagram, Kevin Lee Frazier. Most of that stuff about this podcast in terms of in my story, most of the rest of the stuff's about my life and what's going on with me. And you can also see some of my matches at Kevin Douglas 247 on YouTube. So feel free to go check that out if you want to see some of my wrestling. See that maybe I have earned the right to say some of the strong opinions that I have. And a lot of the guys that are you might see me wrestling some of the guys on this show, like New Cost. And you find me on Facebook, Kevin Frazier. So, Kevin L. Frazier. That's what I got.
DK.
I haven't been overly active recently, but you can find me on Twitter at DKMFWTX.
And if there's some content you guys want to see, slide into the DMs. Whether anywhere on the Alliance blog, we're on Facebook, We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram, TikTok, maybe even Tumblr still. If there's something else you guys want to see, let us know. We're trying to round out the show. I mean, this is just one part of what we do at the Alliance blog, and it's certainly fun, but we want to make sure that you guys are getting content that's enjoyable and something that you can easily digest and have fun with. Of course, we put the t-shirt up here on the side of the screen here. If you haven't got yours yet, you have till June 19th. That's when they stop selling them. They're taking them off. They're going to that Disney vault. You can't find them ever again. So if you want to get a shirt, it's just $20. All proceeds from that shirt go to the Juvenile Diabetes Research Fund. And we'll talk more about that as the weeks come by. But your boy J. Cal is going to be walking with his family in support of my daughter who has type 1 diabetes. And it would mean a lot to me if you guys would pick up a shirt, or later we'll have links that you can contribute if you choose to. But that's going to do it for us, guys. I really do appreciate you guys. Thanks for bearing with us. Of course, we'll be back on Tuesday. But until next time, we're going to call it... Do you have something?
No. I'm just pointing at the screen after you.
We'll see you at the matches. Have a good night now.
Good night.